Okay, now these assignments you're going to do today will be taken for a grade, so it's important you watch the video, take the notes, and then you, just after that's done, you do the practice problems. Now, we have some number x, and we add 2, and we get 8. That's after I add 2 to whatever number x is. I have to find what number x was to begin with. So one thing I want you to do is make a wall on the side of the x, okay? Now what is happening to x? It has a plus 2. So the opposite of plus 2 is to minus 2. So you're going to minus 2, and then you're just going to minus 2 from 8. Okay, so 2 minus 2 cancels out. And now it's important you line up your equals just right below it, okay? So on this side of the wall, you're just left with your x, and then on the other side, 8 minus 2 is 6, okay? So x equals 6. Okay, my next one. Now, one thing I saw on the assignment, and I didn't grade it, so it doesn't really matter, you don't just always add or subtract the number over here, okay? Make the wall on the side of your x, and then just look at that side of the wall, and then say, okay, some number x, if we add 7 to that number, I get 9. So what is happening to the x? Plus 7. So I do the opposite, which is to minus 7, and then I go to the other side of the wall and minus 7 from there. It's like balancing an equation. It's like kind of weightlifting. When you take 7 pounds away from one side, you have to take it away from the other side to keep the equation balanced. So again, you drop your equals. That is vital. Over here you got 9 minus 7, that's 2, and then we have our x, and then the 7 minus 7 cancels out, so my answer is 2. Okay, my next problem, 12 is equal to x, some number x plus 5. I have to find what number x is. So again, make the wall, that line I'm drawing, that always goes on the side of the equals that the x is. So over here, don't even look over there. Look at the side of the x. What's happening to your x? We have a plus 5, okay? So the opposite of plus 5 is to minus 5. And then I take 12 minus 5. So again, drop your equals, line up your equals, and then 12 minus 5 is 7. And then we have x, and then that's your answer. X equals 7. Okay, next problem, x plus 6 equals 16. Okay, so some number x, I got a number x. If I add 6 to it, I end up with 16. So again, make the wall on the side of the x. And again, I'm just going to take this calculator and cover up the other side because I want to look at what's happening to the x. I don't care about what's going on the other side. Okay, so what we have, what's happening to x, there's a 6 being added to it. So we minus 6, cross that out, then I go to the other side, minus 6 from 16. So 16 minus 6 is 10. So line up your equals, and you have x on this side, and then 16 minus 6 is 10. Now you can always check your answer by putting it into the original equation, what you started with. So if x is 10, I say, okay, x is 10 plus 6, 16, which I see that it is. So that's the right answer. Okay, x plus 10 equals 22. Once again, I find the side of the equals that the x is on, and that's where I draw the wall. So what's happening to the x? It has a 10 being added. So I minus 10. And then I go minus 10 from the 22. So I drop my equals. I have x. 22 minus 10 is 12. So x equals 12 in that equation. Okay, x plus 17 equals 20. Okay, so I make my equals on the side that the x, the wall, that the side of the x. So what's happening to x? It's plus 17. So I do the opposite of plus 17, which should be minus 17. And then I go minus 17 from the 20. So I drop my equals and we have x, and 20 minus 17 is 3. Okay, so x equals 3. Again, if I put 3 where x was and go 3 plus 17, that's 20. Okay, now again, here's the x, make a wall on the side of the x. So what's happening to the x on this side? It's a minus 4. Okay, so I do the opposite of minus 4, which is to add 4, because those cancel, and then I add 4 to the 8. So 8 plus 4 is 12. Again, line up your equals. You have 12, and then I have x. So x equals 12. Okay, next one. 9 equals x minus 11. Okay, so I mark where the side of the x is at with the wall. That side of the equals, because that's where my x is at. So I look over there and I say, okay, what's happening to the x? We're minusing 11, so I do the opposite of minus 11, which is plus 11. And then I go plus 11 to the 9. So I line up my equals. And over here, 9 plus 11 is 20. Then I have x. Okay, next set. Okay, x minus 8 equals 12. So here's my x. So I kind of separate that side of the equals. That's a wall. So what's happening to the x over there? What operation is happening to x? Minus 4. So we do the opposite of minus 4, which is plus 4. Okay, so I line up my equals and I have x, and then 12 plus 4 is 16. On this assignment, you're only dealing with positives, so you don't have to worry about negatives at all. Okay, 14 equals x minus 2. So I go over here, make my wall on the side of the x. What's happening to the x? A minus 2. So the opposite of minus 2 is plus 2. And then I go plus 2 to 14. And I drop my equals, and 14 plus 2 is 16, and then I have x. So x equals 16. Because it makes sense, because if I put a 16 where x is, and then minus 2, that's 14, which is what we have on the other side. Okay, next one. Some number x plus 7 equals 13. So again, here's my x, so I make the wall on that side. Okay, so on that side of the wall, what's happening to the x? A plus 7. So the opposite of plus 7 is minus 7. And I minus 7 from the 13. So again, I line up my equals. And over here I have x by itself. And then 13 minus 7 is 6. So x equals 6. Okay, next problem. 24 equals x plus 6. So again, here's where the x is. So what's happening to the x over on that side? We have a plus 6. So I do the opposite, which is minus 6. And then I minus 6 from the 24. So I drop my equals. And 24 minus 6 is 18. And then we have x by itself. So x equals 18. The whole object here is to do the opposite of what's happening to the x. Okay, some number x, if I take away 17, I still have 12. Okay, so I got to find out what the x number is. So here's my x, it's on this side of the equals. Okay, so what's happening to x on that side? A minus 17. So the opposite of minus 17 is plus 17. Then I plus 17 to the 12. So line up your equals. Over here you have x. Over here you have to add 12 plus 17, which is 29. Okay, 3 equals x plus 2. So here's where my x is at. So I make the wall on that side, and then I look only on that side of the wall. And I say, what's happening to x? Well, there's a plus 2. So I do the opposite of plus 2, which is minus 2. Okay, and then 3 minus 2 is 1, so 1 is equal to x. Which makes sense, 1 plus 2 is 3. Okay, 27 equals x plus 13, so here's my equal sign. So I make the wall on that side, because this is where I want to write the stuff down. What's happening to x? We have plus 13, so I do the opposite of plus 13, which is minus 13. 27 minus 13, again, line up your equals, and over here you have 27 minus 13, and that's 14, and then we have x by itself, so x is equal to 14. Okay, next one, x minus 9 equals 11, okay? So here's where the x is, so this is where I want to make my wall. Now what's happening to x? We have a minus 9, so the opposite of minus 9 is plus 9. And I plus 9 to my 11. So I line up my equals. I have x. 11 plus 9 is 20. Okay. Okay, now pause the video and work the 8 problems as your assignment. Okay, and then I'll be back with the next part. Okay, now here I provided you with a number line, and this is the same one I gave you. You can ignore these number lines. You're just looking at the middle. Because so you have 0, and then you have your positives and your negatives. Okay, this is kind of the same last time, but now the negatives come into play. Your x is on this side, so you make your wall. And what's happening to the x on that side? You have a minus 5, so you're going to plus 5 and plus 5 to your negative 2. Because you had some number, you take away 5 and you wind up at negative 2. So I drop my equal sign and I have x. Now negative 2 plus 5, here's how that works. Here's your number line. Here's 0 right in the middle. You might want to mark where that's at. So you start at negative 2. And when you add 5, you go to the right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I'm at 3. That's what negative 2 plus 5 is. You think of it as like a number line. Okay, my next problem. Negative 12 equals x minus 2. Now, here's the x. It's on this side of the wall. So right over here, what's happening to the x? You have minus 2, so you need to plus 2. And then I go plus 2 to the negative 12. Now I line up my equals, and I have the x all alone on this side. I just need to figure out what negative 12 plus 2 is. So negative 12 would be here. That's where you start from, and then you're adding 2. So I go 2 units to the right, 1, 2, and I'm at negative 10. Okay, so x equals negative 10. Okay, next problem. X, some number x, if I add 7, I get 3. So here's the x. I make my wall on that side, so I'm working over here. What's happening to the x over there? A plus 7. So the opposite of plus 7 is minus 7. That allows you to now cancel those. And then I minus 7 from the 3. So I drop my equals, I line it up, and I have x over there. Now 3 minus 7. Now 3 is positive, so we start at 3, but when I'm minusing 7, I want to go this way. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm at negative 4. So x is equal to negative 4. So if you take negative 4 plus 7, you get 3. Okay, next one. Negative 6 equals x plus 4. Okay, so here's the x is on this side of the equals, so that's where I make my wall. Now what's happening to x on that side? That's the side I'm worried about. I have a plus 4, so I do the opposite of plus 4, which is minus 4. and then I minus 4 from my negative 6. So I line up my equals. I have the x right there, because remember I crossed out the 4's. I go negative 6 minus 4. So I start at negative 6. Now that's going to be right here, and if we minus 4, we go this way further. So 1, 2, 3, 4. That takes me to negative 10. Okay? So remember, you start with the top number, and then plus goes this way, minus will go that way. Okay, next one, x plus 2 equals 6. So x is on this side of the equation, the equals. What's happening on that side? A plus 2. So we minus 2. Then we minus 2 from the negative 6 on the other side. So I drop my equals, I have x, and I go negative 6 minus 2. So I start at negative 6, and if I'm minusing 2, I go to the left. So 1, 2, and I'm at negative 8. Okay, next one. Negative 9 equals x minus 4. Okay, so I make my wall on that side, and I go look on that side and ask the question, what's happening to the x? Minus 4, so we need to plus 4. And then I plus 4 to the negative 9. So I drop my equals. I have the x over here. And I need to figure out what negative 9 plus 4 is. So negative 9 plus 4 means we start at negative 9 and we go 4 to the right, because plus 4 means we go to the right. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So negative 5. I still have a negative, but it's not as extreme of a negative. So x equals negative 5. Okay, x plus 5 equals negative 3. So put a wall on the side of the x. What's happening to the x? A plus 5. So we need to minus 5. And then I minus 5 from the negative 3. So I have x. So negative 3 minus 5, I start at negative 3, and then minus 5 means I move 5 this way. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I have negative 8. Okay, then my last example, negative 7 equals x plus 4. So here's where the x is at. Once again, don't always just do that number, okay? So here's the equals, the x is over here, so that's the side I draw my wall. And I ask myself, what's happening to the x? Well, we have a plus 4 with it, so I don't want that there, so I minus 4, and that allows me to cross it out. Then I minus 4 from the negative 7, so I drop the equals. The x is over there. And negative 7 minus 4, remember you start at the top, negative 7, and when you subtract 4 you go to the left. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm at negative 11. Okay, now use your number line to do this one, then it'll make more sense what you're doing rather than just go to the calculator.